It must have happened with you that you studied for a test and you were confident enough that you have prepared well for the exam. But in exam, you could not even remember the whole thing, or you could only remember few parts of it, or you forgot the crucial part of that information. Or it must have happened that you felt that you knew the concepts very well, but when asked to explain it, you could not find the right words. This is called illusion of competence. Our brain tricks us to feel that we know a material very well when we don't. This creates frustration and anger for many students after exam. So, in this video, I am going to discuss why we fall prey to illusion of competence and why it is part of our brain's process. When our brain stores information, it stores with cues and connections. Brain uses these cues and connection to remember information. Cues can be anything: certain place, object, certain phrases or time, particular mood, etc. For example, if I sing a few words of a very famous song, it is possible that you would remember whole para of it. In fact, just by looking at a face of a person, you would remember the whole arrays of memories associated with that person. Similarly, if I ask you to tell me all the shops that are there in the route of your school from your home, you may remember some, but you would not be remember many. But if I take you on that route, you would be able to remember much more information about that route. Why? Simply because now your brain is receiving the visual cues from the surrounding. Your brain would remember that there is an ice cream parlor after the turn, because the turn is the cue for the ice cream parlor. So when you study from a notebook, your mind gets cues and it associates them with the material you are learning. When you revise from an open notebook, your mind is constantly receiving those cues and can trick you in feeling that you know the material. Your mind is confusing familiarity with understanding. But in tests, you have to reproduce the whole information by yourself without those cues. Without those cues, the chances are you might fail to reproduce whole material by yourself. Therefore, to overcome the illusion of competence, you should be able to remember the material without any cues from surrounding or the material itself, for which you need to create as many cues as you can for a given material, or remember the information so well that you do not need external cues. The best way to achieve this is by the technique called recall. More on that in the next video. To summarize, illusion of competence is the reason you fail to remember the information you thought you knew. Our mind creates cues during storing of information in the memory, and it requires those cues to remember the information. To perform well, you should be able to remember the information without the external cues. Happy learning!